Earlier this year, I spent 2 weeks at home recuperating from an operation that I chose to have. This was monumental for several reasons. First, I haven't had a length of time like that by myself, with no one to look after or do anything for over 30 years. May have had a day or so here or there, but that was it. Second, it was the first time I felt completely relaxed about spending that time focused on just recuperating without feeling I needed to swing back into work or back into responsibilities. I got a little bit addicted to Virgin River, which I don't think I could watch now, but I really wanted to watch junky TV. But it did come at a cost. Even though I'd covered the basics, it did take me out of action leading up and after the surgery of working on our business and working in the business. And that did see us drop in revenue for a short period post-surgery. This was due to what I already knew would happen, a delayed reaction and the less marketing going on, and my focus was on myself and not my business. Thankfully, it all caught up on itself, and the impact was nowhere as big as I had feared. Along with this, I was also experiencing a new realization that the business, as much as I love it and all the people I get to work with, is not nearly as important to me now as what is important to me, and that's me. Since I made the call to have surgery, a bunch of things have changed and there's balance in my life. So this is a really personal podcast that's looking at what it was like for me as a small business owner and how it's changed the way I market my business now. I hope you enjoy this story. It's a bit more personal than I normally do for a podcast, but I really wanted to share it because it has had such a dramatic part of my life, and I explained to you a little bit about too the journey I've been on. So I hope you enjoy, and thanks for listening in. Welcome. This is Mibit Marketing, and I am your host, Rachel Klaver. I love helping small business owners become more confident and more capable with their marketing. So this podcast is all here to help you do just that. It's me and the help of some great guests helping you learn new skills, new strategies, and ideas. Let's jump in and get started. Hi, I am Rachel Klaver, your host of Mibit Marketing, and this is a pretty personal podcast topic today because I made a decision to have elective surgery in July of this year, and I was recording a podcast with another person, and suddenly realized that one of the things he was talking around, taking time out to do other things, was a similar story to the impact on my business when I did that with the selective surgery. And I know that it's something that people worry about, is what will happen if my business suddenly didn't have me? How would I manage that? What would happen to my business? So I thought I'd share with you what happened to our business when I did that. And I also wanted to share this because this has been a year where, for the first time in my life, I decided something happened where I just decided I was going to put myself first in what I needed to have happen. And pretty much just didn't, once I had the green light from Rod, my husband, who works with me as well, as you guys might know if you're a regular to the show, once I'd had the green light that he was supportive of me of making this decision around my surgery, that actually understanding that I just flicked the switch of realizing that, yes, it was going to cost our business financially, probably for a year or for a while. And also that this was a chance for me to right some of the imbalances that I had in my life around so many things, but in particular also my work. So I want to share this with you because, I'm 51 and I know that a lot of people that listen to this podcast, all ages, but I do have a lot of women over the age of 40. And I do know that for us historically, Generation X's, we're not that great at talking about ourselves. And I've been really inspired. One of my amazing clients, Kate Nankerville, has just started doing a podcast called The Shape of Kate about her health journey. And mine's a health journey too. So I thought I would share about it. But I also just want to talk a little bit about the cost of business and what I've done to remedy that as we've come back and I've come back to work, and what I learned about marketing from that as well. So this is a bit of a personal podcast, and I hope that you enjoy it. But yeah, we'll get started. So basically, for those of you that have ever met me in person, I think people will use the frame larger than life, but rather large. People often would say, totally confident. I love clothes. I've always worn lots of bright clothes and really loved wearing things that made me feel good. But I also felt that my confidence was exhausting. Trying to be confident in front of people and worried about whether someone would judge me. I would get so sick and tired of people judging me for my size, and I'd have to work extra hard to prove that I had a brain to match. The brain was as big as my body, that I had a brain that was worth listening to, because people make judgments on people's size. And during that time, I had briefly, a couple of times I'd thought about how I would solve that, and I had lost weight and then put it on, lost weight and put it on. And I also, during that time too, 2020 was really bad for me in terms of health. We were super busy, and I've shared this on previous podcasts, but I was working 7 days a week, 12 to 14 hours a day. I was literally getting up, starting work, working the whole day, barely just sitting on my ass the whole time, barely did anything else, and then would fall into bed, fall asleep, wake up early, 4 o'clock, start work again. It was super busy. I want to say that that's I was so thankful that we got work. We were able to put work money away that actually ended up helping me pay for my surgery. But it was a very hard time, and my health suffered. And I was spending this time, and I wasn't talking to anyone about it. I wasn't even talking about it with Rod. But I was having these moments where I was waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning and thinking, this body's going to die. Like, I just feel so unwell. And I'd try and get fit, and I kept on having injury after injury, and that was frustrating. And my bloods weren't looking great. They were getting a little bit pre-diabetic and high cholesterol, and I was trying to manage it with diet and exercise. But the diet was, I've always been pretty healthy, but I have a big appetite, and not everything was healthy, but I've never been a big drinker. I've always had pretty healthy food. This is pretty personal. I know this is not very marketing stuff, but anyway, a bunch of my friends, including a couple of clients and good friends, all in the period of couple of weeks over February, I found out that they either were about to have surgery or they'd just had it, bariatric surgery. And I was sitting out with Rod, I was thinking about stuff, and I kept on talking about my friends who were doing it, and he just looked at me and said, do you want to have surgery? And I burst into tears and said, I don't want to put anyone out. I do want it, but I don't want this to be an inconvenience to everybody else in my life. And he just looked at me and went, that's completely the wrong reason not to have surgery. And I realized that I had to start for us to put our business in a good place long-term, and us and me, I had to put myself first. And that was really hard. I found it really difficult to do that. I didn't want to put anybody out. And I knew that it would make changes to the way that he would have to carry stuff in our business. I knew that it would make changes to what we ate at home, and that might inconvenience my kids or him, that it might alter the way we ate out. It hasn't, by the way. I still eat out. I just eat a lot less. And it would alter dynamics. And I would be taking time away from the business. And could we do that? And should we do that? But I really wanted to decide to do it. So in February, I decided that I was going to have a gastric sleeve, and a light went on. And from that moment, I started losing weight. My whole diet changed. Everything changed. I started an exercise program because I realized that the biggest thing for me was I had this complete fear that if I lost weight, it was just going to come back on again. But because I had this thing coming up that was going to help it stay permanently off, I was going to be okay. And so I did a whole lot of stuff. And so even like walking towards this July date of having gastric sleeve, things started to change in the way the business would run. I stopped wanting to work at nights and at weekends because I wanted to have more time and energy to have exercise and to look after myself. I wanted to have more time to menu plan and think about those sort of things. I started making changes on how I was working because I wanted to make sure that I had emotional capability, and I didn't want to overload what I was doing. So I started restricting the days that I worked directly with clients. That has a cost for us as a business. It's starting to pay off now, but it has a cost. And around this time too, I was launching my very first coaching program. And that was a thing that I also really believed that I wanted to do. And I got this group of people, this group of 9 people, amazing, all amazing people, and came together. And I'm leading up towards doing my surgery, and suddenly this group was here who I was learning alongside them of how to run a program. And it was a 12-week program, made it 13 weeks. And near the tail end of that, my surgeon changed the date. She brought it forward. And it was super exciting, but I had to negotiate with my coaching group. Like, I did not want to change. I could not wait any longer. I just wanted this change. And they so kindly said, it's fine. We'll just hold off the last week. You can do this. We'll come back and do the last week together. And then 10 days before I was due to have surgery, my youngest daughter got COVID, and instead of being the mother that I normally would have been, where I was dropping everything and looking after her, I was like, I have to get out of this house. I did not care about anything else except for myself. Now, I want to explain this because it's such a huge thing that this person, me, who's been a mother, who was a single mom for years, who always put everyone before them, like, my team, my kids, anyone, my clients, I always would I was known when I was a freelance writer of being the person who, that editors could ring me on a Sunday and the work would be done on the Monday. Even if I had stuff on, I would be like, I'm putting that need first. I had very little personal boundaries around my own personal space, my own values around that sort of stuff, because I was just all about that, serving other people, not wanting to put anyone else out at the cost of my own needs. And suddenly I'd become this person who was like, that's not going to be, I am not letting COVID, all my children who are sick, very sick at home, who can't even sit up, I'm not going to let that stop me. And I was out of there. I moved into the top of my parents' house where I was fully quarantined. And then my surgery got delayed, like literally hours before it was meant to, because this big war came on around whether I was allowed to go, even though I'd been with someone that was a household contact, even though I had no contact with them. And so it got postponed for a week, and I was devastated. And then I had surgery and I was off for 2 weeks. And during that time, let me tell you, I wasn't thinking about the business. There was some stuff that I knew that I had to do. I did my stuff column. I did this podcast. I got some bare minimum stuff done. But the activity that I knew I needed to do, when I talk about building a sticky web, I didn't do a lot of it. And at first we didn't notice much. And that 2 weeks off on surgery, for a start, I was super tired. I was learning how to eat new ways. I was having to focus on my own health. Look, I really underestimated how crook you feel after you have most of your stomach taken out. And I could, I was walking every day, but my walks were painful and slow. Like, it took me about 17 minutes to walk my first kilometer, about 10 days post-op, and maybe 5 days post-op. I think by 10 days I was doing more than that. But it was slow, and it was, agonizing. And I must have looked like I was just so feeble walking around the street. And so that was my focus. My focus was my own health. And it has continued to be that. My times for marketing, in all honesty, used to be before work, I'd get up super early and do that. That is now where I now do a 5K walk during that time. Or it was at night, and now I want to hang out with my family and spend time with them and do things that feed my soul. It would be in the weekends. Now I use that time for me. I get extra exercise. I'm reading novels. I do that. My podcast time that I'm listening to are for feeding my soul, feeding my brain, not feeding it with more business stuff. I have totally grabbed space from the time I used to use in my marketing for me. And that hurt our business initially. We had the quietest latter part of August that I think we've ever had. And we do traditionally have a couple of quiet months. And yes, we're in a recession, but it was like crickets. And that's because, as I've always taught, if you have a dead space in your marketing, you don't feel it right away, there's a 6-week lag. And that's exactly what happened to us. There was a 6-week lag. And so I knew that I had to actually find a way to put marketing into our business in a way that would make sure that we grew again, which it is, thankfully, it's growing. And we have now again regular leads coming in, and we have them in the right places. That coaching program that was originally 13 weeks is now a year-long program because they all wanted to stay. And then I did another one in August when I was just recuperating, like 2 weeks after my surgery or 3 weeks after my surgery, and we did another one. And again, a lot of those people have stayed and continued, which is a beautiful thing, as we release and start getting new people into our February one. And I love that group. Like, they are getting to hang out with them twice a week on a group coaching call, and getting to do those things is amazing. And watching them fly and create their content, and really, helping them build their businesses is so meaningful for me. And that's where I feel I'm really happy to be with those people. But it is a real reminder that I do not regret deciding to put myself first this year. I know it cost us money. It cost us thousands and lost sales for a short period of time. But the long period of time is that I have much higher energy levels now. My health is much better. I have learned some really important lessons around building boundaries, around what's really important. And I've also learned a lot around valuing the things that really count for me. And it's changed the way that I market. I've rabbited on some of these podcasts, or if you're in my groups, and definitely if you're in my coaching group, I go on and on about how our community is our most important people to look after. I've really invested more in email. And yes, I've had unsubscribes from that because I email more frequently, and some people just weren't that connected to me. But I am dedicated to feeding first the people that chose to be in my community. And I understand now that the structure of marketing isn't about making sure I've got a TikTok video or a reel all the time. There's definitely platforms that I've left kind of stagnant for weeks on time, or really for almost a year in some areas, because I really had to sit and think, if I'm going to put myself first, if my energy needs to be on this, then I need to make sure that I only do the work that's going to get us the results. And so I do invest in the ones that do. TikTok gives us great leads and ideal clients. Instagram does too, actually, and Facebook. But I find Instagram for me is not a place where I feel naturally engaged all the time. And when I'm on there, I go, what am I missing? I love this. Of course I love this. But I think that one of the things I've also learned is pulling back and really start going, where am I feeling most creatively free? Where am I able to show myself more? And I've been able to make those choices. It's meant that in terms of the business, I am resolutely, that's not even a word, resolutely focused on having a business where I am able to carve out creative space for myself, because it helps me with my clients. But it also means that I am energized as a person, and that emotional, physical, and mental health for me has become so important. And so I guess if you're listening to this, I want to encourage you, if there's something you're not doing that puts yourself first because you're putting your business before that, don't. The business will last or not, but it's you that's actually more important. You're the most important asset in your business. And learning to live that has been so important for me this year. I've preached to other people, but I've lived it this year. And I want to pull back on something that I mentioned at the beginning. So I mentioned, I was known for my confidence, and the being bigger than the room kind of thing. And I joked that it was, my size helped with that. But one of the things I've found after now I've lost, almost 50 kilos this year, is that it's much easier for me to be confident when I look average, which is a weird thing, but it's much easier for me to allow my personality to shine and be who I am, and not think that someone's rejected me on my size, which is like a default. Whether they ever did that or not, there's a default. If you look different to everybody else, and I'm lucky that I can change that. Like if you're a person of color, or you're a particular ethnic group, or you've got an accent, it's harder. Like, you can't always change those things. And I understand that struggle of having to steel yourself before you're going into a room to go, I'm going to make them accept me the way I am, no matter what. And I have understood now, I understand that privilege that so many other people have that I hadn't had for such a long time, that I don't sit there before a Zoom call or before I'm going into speaker room thinking, oh gosh, are they going to be sitting there going, well, like that's not her best side that I'm taking. Or even me, seeing photos of myself and going, oh my gosh, And I was a confident person back then, but it was a confidence I had to work on. And now the confidence I have is a much more relaxed one. And I definitely went through a stage where I stopped wearing color as I was losing weight because I just was quite enjoying blending in with everyone else. And now I'm starting to explore color again and pattern because I feel like I'm settling into where I sit. But for me, while the business lost money this year, when I put my health first, when I made that call to do that this year, it has put our business in such a great place for us to grow in the best way for us, because also I know what I love doing more now. And I'm strong enough to really clearly articulate that without always thinking, is that going to impact somebody else in a negative way? You know, to walk a life where we're just worrying about, are we going to put someone out, might make us great at customer service, might make us great at serving our team and our customers. But long term, it's not a healthy dynamic. And I look at the solid relationships I've created with the clients as I've been on this journey, and it's a far better and healthier relationship. It's a longer term relationship, and I'm able to meet them more confidently not because I lost weight. And I think that's important, but because I chose myself. It's not a war around weight loss here. And I am as body positive as I can. This is my personal decision. It's about the fact that I would like to ask you, are you choosing yourself or other people or your business? And if you're not choosing yourself, maybe 2023 could be the year that you do that. And it's a personal podcast, not very marketing-ish, although I do think it does relate to marketing because it shares the messages that we have are going to be interacted by the way we are inside us, right? And the people that we attract, if we're not attracting our ideal clients, it's impacted by how we're putting ourselves out there. I am able to be more authentic when I'm choosing myself. And I'm able to show different elements of myself, and maybe not just all the perfect ones that are the sanitized versions. It makes a difference. So that's what happened this year when I put my business first. I put my health first before my business, not the other way around. And I hope that helps you. And I'd love to hear from you with this. It is a more personal thing. And I don't really want to be patted on the head with a good job. Good job, you lost weight. And I don't really want you to tell me that you think weight loss surgery is cheating, or any of those sort of things where you can tell me, but I'm just going to laugh at you. I lost 25 kilos without it, but I needed it to keep on losing the weight and to keep motivated. I needed it personally. It wasn't the surgery that was the impact for me. It was the decision to choose myself. And there's lots of ways that we can do that just by deciding that we're not going to cook every night. I no longer cook every night. It's about deciding that I don't have to be the person that fixes this thing all the time. Other people can do it. And those are all little things that have been chipped away as I made one decision to choose my own health and my own self this year in 2022. What can we do to choose ourselves next year in 2022?
If you'd like to talk about things that were in this podcast, or actually just join a group of small business owners and like-minded people to you in a community that's fun and friendly and safe, then come along and be part of the Map It Marketing community on Facebook. I share insights and ideas there, and you can always ask any questions you want. And if you'd like to talk to me about my own journey and you want to ask in there, you can ask away. I know that not everyone is going to feel great that I had weight loss surgery, but it was my decision. And I think one of the things I've really learned is that we need to be unashamedly proud of making the right calls for ourselves. That when we take time and think about things and we know we're putting our health first, whatever that looks like for us, that's always going to be a good move. And for me, this was the right way for me to do it. For you, it might be different. For you, it might just be not working on a weekend or having time where you're just focusing on your kids and you're not feeling guilty that you're having to work. It could be deciding that you're going to take one day a week to do something you really love and not work on your business that day. Whatever it is, I hope that in 2023 you find more balance if you don't have it now, that you find ways to be brave and make changes. And I'd love to know from you what those changes are. So drop me a line or come and be part of our group and share. I'm going to hero you for that. I think it's brave. And really, our businesses are meant to make our lives better, not have us run ragged around our business, right? So I'd love to hear. And otherwise, I'm really looking forward to sharing with you next week our amazing guest, who actually was one of the people that made me want to record this today. I interviewed him this morning and then jumped on and recorded this podcast for this week. So hope you enjoy, and otherwise have a great week, and I'll talk to you next week.
If you love what you heard today, be sure to hit subscribe. And if you loved this episode in particular, I'd love it if you shared it on social media. Remember to tag me in so I can say thank you. Have a great week, and we'll talk soon.